Hey, what's up you guys? My name's Tyler Rugge, and for today's video I'm going to be doing a Crested Gecko Care guide. You guys have been requesting this and I thought I would finally get to making one. Crested geckos are really easy lizards to take care of. People always ask me, hey, like, what do you think is the easiest reptile to have as far as like what's best for a beginner? And obviously leopard geckos and bearded dragons are really popular beginner reptiles, but crested geckos are starting to gain a bit of popularity, and in my opinion they are the easiest to take care of. Not that bearded dragons and leopard geckos and whatnot aren't easy, but crested geckos are just so easy, and you guys will get to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, without further ado, here is my Crested Gecko Care video. The very first thing you need, obviously, is a tank for your crested gecko to live in. For an adult crested gecko, they need a minimum of a 20-gallon long tank, and you want it to be turned on its side. If you get a teeny tiny little baby crested gecko, then you're gonna wanna keep it in a 10-gallon long on its side. The only reason why I say that you should keep it in a smaller tank is because if it's in a huge tank, it might have some trouble finding its food. But if it's a decent sized gecko, then you can keep it in 20-gallon long on its side, and that is perfectly fine for its entire life. And when you first get your gecko, you're going to want to keep it on paper towel to make sure it is eating and it's pooping and everything. As you can see, I keep my crested geckos in an Exoterra tank. I keep them in an 18 by 18 by 24. This is about equivalent to a 20-gallon long tank. I like this because it's already a vertical tank, and I just really like how the doors open up like this. Exoterra tanks are just a little bit fancier and they are more expensive. If you're on a budget, you can literally just get a 20-gallon tank and turn it on its side. The reason why you want a tall tank as far as one that's long is because crested geckos do not climb around on the ground at all. They just like to climb upwards, and they hide in the foliage and the leaves that are up here. As far as substrate for your tank, like I said, you're going to want to keep it on paper towel at first, just so you know whether or not it's pooping, and it's just easier to clean up and everything. And you can actually always keep it on paper towel if you want to. A lot of people do this just because of how easy it is to take care of and clean up. I personally keep my crested geckos on a mix of cypress mulch, reptibark, and sphagnum moss because I really like the way it looks, and it also is really good at holding in the humidity because crested geckos do need a pretty decent humidity. You guys always make fun of the way I say humidity. I don't know. I'm sweating. It's really hot in my room. Oh my god. Why? This is what happens when you have reptiles with heat lamps in your room in the summer. So good substrates are cypress mulch, reptibark. You can sprinkle some sphagnum moss in there just to hold in some humidity, and some people also like to use coconut fiber, which is totally fine. You just don't want to use like sand bedding or anything like that they can swallow and get impacted. As far as decorating your enclosure, you don't need any cave hides or anything on the bottom like you do with a lot of reptiles because they aren't going to use it. Like I said, they hide mostly in the leaves and in sticks and branches. So I just keep fake vines up here, and I have sticks and stuff for them to climb around on. You just want a lot of room for them to be able to climb like up at the top of the tank because they aren't going to hang out at the bottom very much. So I just have some sticks and I have a piece of cork wood so that they can climb up, and then I have a bunch of vines. Some people keep live plants in here too. If you want to have some live plants in here, that's totally fine. You just want to look up what is safe to keep with your crested geckos, and you can have live plants in there, and that they look really cool. You just want to make sure that any sticks or logs or anything you put in here are bought at a pet store, or they're just made for reptiles. So you're not supposed to get anything from outside and put it in the tank because you don't know what's living on it or if there's anything dangerous on it, like pesticides or anything like that could harm your reptile. So only get things that are from the store that are made for reptiles, nothing found in the woods. As far as what to feed your crested gecko, I feed mine Pangea. There are a few different brands of gecko diet. There's Pangea and Rapashi. I know those are two of the most popular brands, but as far as I'm concerned, Pangea is the best crested gecko diet, and they have the most variety as far as flavors. and it's literally just a powder that you mix with water in a little dish until it's a thick consistency and the geckos eat it. And it has all of the nutrients they need to survive. If you want, you could just feed them this and nothing else, and they could live perfectly healthy. And that's one thing that's really good that people like about crested geckos, is you do not need to feed them live insects. However, a lot of people do like to feed them crickets, and I would recommend throwing some crickets in there at least a couple times a month, just so that they have a little bit more variety, because it is good for them to have variety. But if you're totally against feeding live insects, then they can survive off of just Pangea and be perfectly healthy, because it has everything they need in here. Only thing is, if you're not going to feed your gecko live insects, then I would recommend giving them this Pangea. It's a type that has insects in it. It just says Pangea fruit mix complete with insects, because they do need insects in their diet. So if you're not going to feed them insects, at least get the Pangea reptile diet that has insects in it. Like I said, it's just a powder that you mix with water. So another thing you're going to need is Reptisafe, which is made by Zoomed. They come in little bottles like this. It's just a tap water conditioner that you mix with tap water so that it is safe for your reptiles. I use this for all of my reptiles because tap water isn't good for them. Alternatively, you could just buy them purified water and use that. But I just find it a lot easier to condition my tap water as opposed to buying water just for my reptiles. And also, you're gonna need something to mist down the cage with. I have this big mister that I use for all my reptiles, and I just put a bunch of tap water in here, condition it, and then I use this to mist down my crested gecko tank twice a day. I mist it down once in the morning and once in the evening. That keeps the humidity up. And also, they drink the water off of the glass and the leaves, so it is really important to mist it down. You can also provide them with a water dish if you want. It's not required because they like to lick the water off of the leaves and the glass, and they will do so, and they might not even use the water dish, but you can put it in there just in case. So yes, it is required to mist down the tank twice a day so that they get their humidity and they can drink the water off of the leaves. And also, I would highly recommend getting a ledge that you can put the cups in so that they can eat off of the cups that are on the ledge, as opposed to having to go to the bottom of the tank, because as I continue to mention, they like to hang out up here. So there's magnetic ledges. I have one right here on the side that you just put little cups in, and the cups, you can reuse them or you can just throw them away because they come in a huge package, and you just put the crested gecko diet in there. They like to crawl on it and eat it, and you can also put the water dish in the ledge. You can keep the crested gecko diet in their tank for 24 hours, and then I would just replace it every 24 hours, throw it away and put in some more. And like I said, it would be good if you threw in crickets a few times a month at the very least, just for them to hunt and get more exercise and get variety in their diet. And don't be alarmed if you never see your crested gecko physically eating, because I don't think I've ever seen them eat out of their cup of crested gecko food, because they are nocturnals. They're usually active at night when I'm sleeping. And as long as they're pooping, like I said, they are eating, so don't freak out if you never see your gecko eating, because they probably are eating. And another thing you might notice is I do not have a light on them. They do not require any type of UVB lighting. They don't need a heat source. They don't need a heat pad or a heat bulb. They're perfectly fine in room temperature. If your room's in the 60s or 70s, they're perfectly fine with room temperature. If your room gets really, really cold in the winter, then you could probably use some kind of very light heat source, but for the most part, they're fine. Where they come from, it does get cold at night, so they're okay with pretty cool temperatures. And one more thing that's really important to know is whether or not you can keep crested geckos together. You can keep female crested geckos together, but under no circumstances would I ever recommend keeping males together, because males will fight. In a 20-gallon long, I would say you could keep 2, maybe 3 females together. I wouldn't really do more than that because I feel like it's pushing it. And I also wouldn't recommend keeping males and females together unless you're planning on breeding them and you know how to breed geckos, because if you keep males and females together, they will mate and they will lay eggs. So you need to be prepared for that. And if you are going to house crested geckos together at all, you also need to keep in mind that there is always a chance that they will fight. I know I said that females usually get along, and there's always exceptions to that rule. They might always still fight, but as long as you give them enough space and enough hiding spots and enough foliage to hide in, then there usually isn't a problem, but you will need to be prepared to separate them if there are any conflicts that occur, because you don't want to risk any of them getting hurt. So yeah, I think that's basically all you need to know about crested geckos in order to care for them. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I can answer them for you. And if you guys like this video, if it helped you out, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel because I post videos every week. Check out my social media. The links to those will be in the description below. And I'll see you guys in my next video.